It's common knowledge that buying a house can be one of the most stressful times of your life. But when the Brown family moved into their new home in the spring of 2001, the stress levels were low compared with what was coming their way. Creaking floorboards, the clanking of pipes, and noises from the loft were insignificant compared with the poltergeist activity, the dark shadows, and the series of bad luck destined to stick to the family like glue in the years that lay ahead. For they'd not just bought a house, they'd adopted an unwelcome entity into their lives. What follows is based on real life events in the Norfolk coastal village of Caister On Sea, a place popular with tourists and founded more than 2,000 years ago when it was originally a Roman settlement. This is That Scary Bloke, and I do hope that you enjoy this evening's short story from the dark side. Andrew and Margaret were in their late 30s with 3 grown-up children, the youngest being Richard. He was in his last year of high school, and Margaret's mother Nellie, she lived with the family after her husband had died a couple of years earlier. Andrew had a good job that would see him away from home most weeks for 1, 2 or sometimes 3 nights, while Margaret worked part-time as a receptionist at a local holiday park. Married young with 3 children in quick succession, the Browns' early years had been tough. Work was sporadic and pay was often quite meagre, which meant any luxuries generally came at the cost of an unpaid household bill or cutbacks on heating or even on their groceries. However, their fortunes turned on the career front in the late 1990s, and the hardship was becoming a thing of the past. Andrew and Margaret felt it was time to sell their small 3-bedroom semi in a nearby village and upgrade to something larger, detached with a nice garden. But the sort of thing that they were after seemed to be just out of their price range. One day though, Margaret contacted Andrew at work full of excitement. "I think I found us the perfect house, and although it's still a bit dear, the estate agents have indicated that the owners would likely accept a sensible offer," she said. Well, the couple viewed the property that weekend and they both liked it and could imagine living there. So they discussed a way forward. Andrew pointed out that in order to afford the property, decorate it and put their own stamp on it, then any offer would be far from sensible. In fact, he was convinced that their offer would be blown out of the water. And as he was going away on business on the Monday morning, he left Margaret to announce what they were both feeling was more of an insult than an offer, but nevertheless, Margaret was determined and she made the call. The estate agent was also doubtful that the offer would be acceptable to the current owners, who'd already moved lock, stock and barrel back to their roots in the north east of England, leaving the detached 4-bedroom executive home for sale. But John, one of the agent's senior partners, responded with a quip along the lines of, "Well, if you don't ask, you don't get. And if nothing else, it will form the basis of a negotiation. So let me contact Mr. and Mrs. Hardwood and I'll let you know how I get on," he said. Margaret relayed the conversation onwards to Andrew via a text message to his work's mobile phone, and within the hour, Robert Stevens' estate agents were back on the phone to Margaret. "Hello Margaret, it's John here from Robert Stevens. I've spoken with Mr. and Mrs. Hardwood and I did propose to them your offer of £120,000. Margaret held her breath, expecting the obvious rejection. "And on the basis of a quick sale, I'm pleased to inform you that they've accepted your offer." Well, Margaret almost dropped the phone with shock and excitement. She was eager to call Andrew and tell him of this amazing news, and of course he was equally excited too, for they would be moving up in the world and the property would suit their new lifestyle, and the company Mercedes would not look out of place on this big driveway, he thought. All they had to do now was convince the bank to lend them the money, which at first felt like a bigger challenge than agreeing a ridiculously low price with the Hardwoods. However, they had a chunky deposit from the sale of their semi-detached house, and also some inheritance money left to them both by Margaret's late father Russell. And actually, the bank were quick to agree a mortgage offer. Things were on the up. They had arrived, as in their dreams were coming true. Although soon, that dream was going to become their worst nightmare. The early months, spring moving into summer, were chaotic but fun, with the progress being made in the garden, new shrubs, hanging baskets, a freshly jet-washed patio, new furniture, along with new carpets, pictures and redecoration throughout the entire house. The end results were really rewarding. And, after all of the hard graft, Andrew and Margaret both felt a holiday was in order. Nellie wanted to visit relatives up north, and that meant leaving the house in the capable hands of Richard, who was a very mature 16-year-old and could be trusted to look after the place. So they were soon on a plane to Tenerife for a midsummer week of sun, sea and sangria. Upon their return from holiday, though, there seemed to be a change in the house, a different feel about the place, and it wasn't altogether pleasant either. The family were noticing noises in the attic, which were dismissed merely as the old plumbing, although the house itself was only 16 years old. The creaking floorboards seemed to creak with a different, deeper and louder tone, even when no one was walking around the place. A few different, almost unaccountable events took place as well. The main bathroom toilet sprang a leak one day from the cistern, and water dripped through the dining room ceiling below, resulting in a period of drying out before actually being repainted. And then, a little while later, the downstairs toilet system sprang a leak too. Same pipe, same place. And both instances were remedied by a replacement rubber washer in the cistern itself. Purely a coincidence, Andrew said, and after all, the place had been empty for a few months. With the water turned off, those washers would have dried out and perished, he said. Margaret, however, wasn't convinced. They've been all right for 3 months or more, Andrew, she exclaimed, so why the sudden leaks now? Then, another time in the early hours of the morning, the entire family were woken up by extremely loud music, with the deep bass sending a vibration through the entire house. "What the hell's that?" Andrew shouted. Everyone congregated on the upstairs landing, looking somewhat startled in their nightclothes, and not as wide-eyed as perhaps they ought to have been. The booming music was coming from the downstairs lounge, and Andrew ran down, clutching a cricket bat, signed by the current England cricket team, that he kept in the upstairs study. He entered the dark lounge and immediately switched on both bright ceiling lights, expecting to meet someone there, but of course, the room was empty. After all, everyone had been in bed, so who was he expecting to be there? The Technic sound system was on, the volume up full, the graphic equaliser pulsating an array of coloured LEDs to the beat of the music. Andrew hit the power button and there was immediate silence. I've got no idea, absolutely no idea how that could have turned itself on, he thought. "Well," shouted Margaret, "what's going on?" "I don't know. I can only assume some electronic radio wave has cross-paths with the remote control and the system has turned itself on," he retorted. "Poppycock," Nellie exclaimed. "Things do not turn on by themselves. We've got a ghost." They all laughed. "We've got a ghost," Margaret repeated, grinning like a Cheshire cat. Richard, however, was not seeing the funny side and decided to leave the bedroom light on for the rest of the night, and his usually closed bedroom door was left ajar. He was of the opinion that Nana might just be onto something. A few weeks later, on a Saturday morning, Margaret was getting ready to go to work at the holiday park, and Andrew, who didn't work weekends, was having a cup of tea in bed. "Of course, you know what today is, don't you?" she said. "Yes," Andrew replied, "it's the most important day in the diary, darling. The day both of our lives changed forever back in 1980. I'd only been left school a year," he laughed. "Yes," she said, "and I was 4 months pregnant. You weren't laughing then though, were you?" she smiled. "Didn't stop you wearing white though, did it?" Now they both laughed. "Are we going out tonight then? Or would you like me to cook us a nice dinner at home? Just the two of us and a bottle of wine," Andrew said. "Your mum's off to the bingo and Richard's got a sleepover at his mate's." "Yeah, the meal, that sounds perfect. Can I take your car to work?" she asked. "Yep, no probs, as long as I can drive your pride and joy to the butcher's," he replied. "It's a deal," she said. "Okay, have a good day. See you just after 5 then. Oh, and happy anniversary, my love." Kisses were exchanged before Margaret dashed out of the house. So far, the numerous small but strange events that occurred since their return from Tenerife were about to pale into insignificance because a rapid succession of even stranger and much darker events would engulf the entire family and their house from here on, and today would be one that they would never forget. Andrew had called at the butcher's to pick up the 2 succulent tender fillet steaks for this evening's anniversary meal, a steak au pois. That was his signature dish after all. Medium rare, homemade peppercorn sauce, sautéed potatoes, mushrooms and green beans, he thought. On his return home from the butcher's, he was already thinking through what music he could play from 1980, what the dessert would look like, and oh yes, of course, a bottle of Campo Viejo, their favourite Spanish red Rioja. Bang! A sudden loud clap of thunder came from the front of the car. CDs, sunglasses and steaks all flying into the front footwell, the accelerator to the floor and the engine revving like a de Havilland tiger moth getting ready for takeoff. Airbags popped, seatbelt tensioners cementing Andrew to his seat. He took a moment to compute what had happened in a split, uncontrollable second. Some idiot had just turned the country lane on the wrong side of the road and hit the gleaming Land Rover head on, crunching the bonnet, collapsing the front wing and stopping both cars dead in their tracks. Andrew was not injured in any way, and he immediately jumped out of the car and, in an uncontrollable rage, completely out of character, tore a strip off the other driver, who looked like he was in his 60s. "What the hell were you thinking of?" Andrew screamed. "You were on the wrong side of the road on this tight bend. Are you blind or something? Or are you just a complete idiot?" A passerby stepped in. "Is anyone injured?" Andrew had not given the other driver a thought in terms of whether or not he, or indeed the 2 passengers in his car, both of whom remained seated and looked terrified, were hurt in any way at all. "We're all okay," the other driver said. "And you?" the woman passerby snapped at Andrew. "Yes, I'm not hurt at all," he said. "Good. Then less of the shouting and screaming. Be thankful that you're all in one piece. The cars can be repaired. Human bodies not quite so easily. Exchange your insurance details and thank your lucky stars." Andrew smiled. "You don't understand. My wife is going to kill me when I get home." The other driver apologised. He didn't know the area and was convinced that the bend was a left turn and not part of the road that he was actually on. "Completely my fault," he said. Andrew apologised too for his outburst. Details were exchanged, hands were shook and both drivers were able to continue their journeys. Upon getting home, Andrew showed Richard, Nellie and his mother May, who had turned up at the house, the damage to the Land Rover. "Mum is going to kill you when she gets home, Dad." Andrew looked Richard in the eye. "I know," he said, pulling a frightened face for what wouldn't be the last time today. "Come on," said May, Andrew's mum. "Let's all go in and have a cup of tea." It was during this sit down for tea in the lounge that the next mysterious event of the day would occur. They were all sat in the lounge discussing Andrew's only ever road traffic accident when there was a crashing sound coming from another part of the house. "What was that?" May exclaimed. "I don't know," said Andrew. He went to investigate, searching the kitchen, dining room, conservatory and all of the upstairs, and he couldn't see anything out of place. "Strange," he said, returning to the lounge. "I can't see anything. I've no idea what it was. There's been so many strange things going on in this house lately," he said. Richard hung his head in silence. "Probably the wind banging the door closed," Nellie said. "I might have left it open when I went outside for a cigarette earlier." Later that afternoon, Andrew had to pay a visit to the downstairs washroom when he noticed a picture on the floor, smashed. It was quite a large print of the Titanic ship. The glass was broken, the frame badly damaged, and the string that it had been hanging on had a clean cut in it. No fraying. "Mum is definitely going to kill you now, Dad." "I never touched it," he said. "I know, but Mum won't buy that. She'll lay the blame squarely with you." Andrew looked at his son as if he was a scolded puppy dog, his eyes looking really sad. "You're right, Rich. She will," he whimpered. Andrew was worried by the prospect of Margaret getting home because he knew she would be really upset, primarily with the fact that the car had been bought with the money that her dad left her and it was quite badly damaged. It was going to break her heart, and he knew a row about it, despite it not being his fault, was going to be on the cards. He thought it might be better to call her at work, break the ice, give her time to get over the shock, come to terms with it before she got home, and then it would make for a calmer evening and they could still make the best of the planned dinner date that they'd arranged. Yeah, I'll call her. I'll do it now. Big mistake. Margaret went ballistic on the phone, bursting into tears with her work colleagues and customers wondering what the news was that she'd just received. Was it a bereavement, perhaps?
Why the hell have you called me at work to tell me this? I have to spend the rest of the afternoon dealing with customers. My job is to smile and be pleasant. I'm in a rage. You should have waited till I got home before telling me this.
And she slammed the phone down. Andrew realised he'd just made the situation 100 times worse. And all in an attempt to make it easier on him. He wasn't really thinking about Margaret at all. Great, he said, slamming the receiver down. Just great. 5:15 p.m. and Andrew's red Mercedes pulled up on the drive. Here we go, he thought. Nellie had already left for the bingo, Richard was at his mates for the night, and it was just the two of them at home, or at least that's what they thought. There was a gap before the door opened. Margaret was inspecting the damage to her car. "Hiya," Andrew said sheepishly, remembering that he actually hadn't done anything wrong. "Do you want a tea, a coffee or something stronger?" No answer. She went straight upstairs. She's getting out of her uniform, he thought. Perhaps she didn't hear me. Then he heard the water running in the shower of the ensuite bedroom. The wait for the confrontation was agonising. Eventually, though, she turned up in the dining room. "I've got dinner on," Andrew remarked. "I'm not hungry. I feel sick," she said. "What the hell have you done to my car? Bet you got music blasting out and weren't paying attention." A blazing row erupted. "Just hang on a minute," Andrew said. "I've witnesses and a statement from the other driver. He was on the wrong side of the road coming round the bend and he hit me head on. I can't believe you've not even asked me if I'm all right. Was I hurt? Was anyone else hurt?" Andrew snapped. "I'm the one who's hurt," she said. "My dad's money bought that car and now it's smashed up. Look, it will be repaired and it'll look like new in a week or two. No one's hurt. Just a bit of pride. Calm down. I'll pour you a glass of wine," he said. "I don't want one," she snapped. "I don't want anything." "Well, I'm having one," Andrew said, reaching for a bottle from the heavily laden wine rack. Truth is, neither of them were really big drinkers, and there was alcohol all over the house, and at least 40 bottles in this huge wine rack, which kind of took centre stage in the dining room. As Andrew withdrew the bottle from its housing, another bottle above it slipped out of the rack and onto the floor. He picked it up, he put it back, but before he could even put the bottle in the rack, another popped out from further away, and then another, and then another, and another. Wine was popping out of this wine rack all over the place. It's as though someone was behind the rack pushing the bottles from behind at a rate of knots. "What the hell are you doing now?" Margaret shouted. Andrew was horrified that these wine bottles were popping out like shells from a cannon and was momentarily speechless. I don't know." And then smash. There was a pile of bottles on the light beige deep pile carpet, and the last bottle to propel itself from the wine rack landed on top of the pile, and smashed glass and wine was everywhere. "Tell me that's white," Margaret growled. "No, it's red," Andrew replied, equally as loud, but with a terrified tremble in his voice. "For God's sake," Margaret screamed, "what's wrong with you today?" Red wine was seeping into the carpet, Margaret was screaming, and Andrew just stood there silent, staring in disbelief. He was trying to comprehend what on earth had just happened. "Get out of the way and don't touch anything else," she said. "Just get out of my way. Go and sit in the study or go and take the dog for a walk." Andrew took their dog Flossie for a walk round the block. He was still trying to get his head around what had just happened. The moments leading up to it. Was it his fault? Did he somehow shake the wine rack, accidentally rocking the other bottles? But even if he did, they were sat in an individual housing. They couldn't fall out without some sort of violent force or a shake. It just wasn't possible. He was back in the house 20 minutes later. Margaret had cleaned up the mess and was now sat drinking a glass of wine. "I don't understand it," Magsy said. "I didn't knock those bottles. They were popping out on their own accord." "Do you mind telling me where the Titanic picture is from the downstairs toilet?" Margaret asked. "Well, it's broken," he said. "Broken," Margaret whispered, with a sarcastic tone in her voice. "So you've had a road traffic accident that wasn't your fault. You've thrown wine around the dining room," she said, exaggerating, but he understood the point. "Oh, and you've broken our Titanic picture." "No, I didn't break it, Mags. Oh, don't tell me it broke itself," she said. "Well, yeah. Well, no, I don't think it broke itself, but I didn't do it." "Well, tell me who did do it then," she snapped once more. I think Well, I think we've got a ghost, Max. She looked at him with her mouth wide open and her eyes almost popping out of her head. There was a prolonged silence. Andy, if I didn't think it myself, I'd say you were being ridiculous, but I've not been happy here since we returned from Tenerife, she said. Nor me, Andrew responded. I think something isn't right with the place, but if we do have a ghost, it came with me for a ride to the butcher's earlier because I promise you there was no music on in the car and I was doing nothing wrong, he whispered. They hugged, apologised to each other, drank some wine, and discussed the whole thing further over the salvaged steak au pois, which was cooked without any further mishaps. You might say it was the calm after the storm. The rest of the night passed without incident, and they were all in bed by midnight. However, yes, it's one of those howevers that signalled trouble lay ahead, and it did, because Margaret and Andy were awoken in the early hours by the sound of banging coming from the landing outside of the bedroom door. Now what's going on? Margaret asked. Well, you're nearest the bedroom door, Max. Go and see what it is, Andrew demanded. She gave him a hard stare as if to say, are you a man or a mouse? Andrew thought he'd better get up, but they both went to the bedroom door to investigate the noise, which was actually a rattling rather than a banging. When they opened the door, they were shocked and scared by what they saw. There were a total of 6 pictures scattered around the landing walls between the doors to the bedroom, study and the family bathroom, but the pictures were shaking like a shivering dog, rattling against the walls and creating a really awful haunting clatter. Nellie appeared from her bedroom door. What's happening now? She said. Look, Mum, Margaret said, the pictures, they're shaking. It was as if they were at the epicentre of an earthquake, except the only thing moving was indeed the pictures, and the shaking was becoming more violent right in front of their very eyes. Then crash! 2 of the pictures, each on a separate wall, smashed to the floor. Again, broken glass and damaged frames all over the place. The 3 of them stood there aghast because not only had the pictures fallen, but immediately they had smashed, the shaking pictures froze as if they'd never been shaking at all. Had they all just imagined this? Did that just happen? Nellie said. Yes, it did, Mum, Margaret responded. I don't like this, Andrew, she said, making a beeline for the ensuite toilet. But as he pulled the light cord, the bulb flashed and shattered glass all over the toilet floor. His impulsive response was to dive onto the bed and pull the quilt over his head. That's it, he shouted. The house goes on the market Monday morning. We're not staying here a moment longer. The kettle went on and the cleaning up began, and in a short while it was as if it had all been a dream. Thank God Richard wasn't here, Nellie said. He would have been scared to death. It scared me to death, Nell, Andrew said. Yeah, me too, Margaret replied. Yeah, and me, Nellie joined in. You're not really going to put the house on the market though, are you, Andrew? Nellie said. I'm not sure what to do, but we do need to find out what's going on, and if we do have a ghost, who is it and why are they haunting us? Weeks and months passed by without further incident, but one day Margaret was in the house alone and decided to phone Andrew, who was at work and away overnight for a few nights. It was mid-afternoon and the sun was shining through the windows. Whilst they were chatting away, about nothing in particular, just catching up really, Margaret heard footsteps coming up the stairs. She thought perhaps her mum was coming home from the hairdresser's. Is that you, Mum? She shouted, but no response. Andy, there's someone in the house, she said. I thought you said it was your mum, he replied. Mum, is that you? She shouted again, but no response. The footsteps got louder, and it sounded like they were heading straight for the study door. Pick up the cricket bat, Andrew said. Open the door now. She did as he said. Who is it? She shouted, pulling the door open quickly whilst holding the bat in the other hand. Well, who is it then? She heard Andrew shouting down the phone, which was laying on the desk. Margaret picked up the phone. There's no one there, Andy. But those footsteps were loud, and someone definitely climbed those stairs. At that, the front door opened and Nellie walked in. I'm home, she shouted. Do you want a cup of tea, Mags? It's back, she declared. The ghost, Andy. It never left. It's still here. OK, go to your mum. I'm coming home but won't be back until around 7. Put all the lights on, lock all the doors and sit together in the lounge. Keep the phone by your side and if you get scared, get out. Go down to my mum's. May lived less than a mile away. But it was a quiet, uneventful night, much to everyone's relief. They were living their lives on the edge. There was a feeling that they were constantly being watched and nobody wanted to be alone in the house anymore. The place fell silent again and nothing happened in the house for several weeks. One Friday evening, as Andrew got home after a long drive back from Birmingham where he'd been working for the last few days and now looking forward to a weekend of rest, he was greeted on the doorstep by Margaret. 'Hi,' he said. 'All okay?' 'Yes,' she said. 'How was your journey?' 'It was good,' Andrew replied. 'Yes, and me,' Margaret said. The roads were busy, he said. Everyone's commuting home for the weekend like me, longing for a relaxing time with the family, he smiled. Andrew, we need professional help, Margaret said. What do you mean? Richard's been upset. He says he's been seeing dark shadows in his bedroom at night, men in uniform at the bottom of his bed. He's scared and he's not getting any sleep and it's affecting his schoolwork, Andy. Well, what sort of help are we going to get, Mags? I've asked a psychic medium to come to the house, she said. No, Andrew replied. We're not getting any freaks in here and paying them to tell us a load of rubbish. We are, she said. He's coming tonight and you're going to be seeing him too. Not happy, but Andrew felt he had no choice now, and secretly he was open to trying anything. The medium came. He told them all of contacts he was getting from dead relatives, particularly Margaret's dad was very strong. He wants you to know he's here and he's going to protect you from the dark entity, Margaret. What dark entity is that then, she asked. It's your house, Margaret. It's haunted by a Roman soldier. He lived on this land 2,000 years ago, and up until quite recently the land had been just open fields. He'd been dormant and quiet, but he's awoken. He's not happy that the house was built on his land. He died here and he's never properly moved on. He patrols the area and he wants you and the house gone. What do you mean awoken? I'm not sure, but somehow he was invited back here and he's now trapped. He can't move on and he's very angry and quite dangerous. He wants you all out. Your dad is telling you to stay strong and also to stay put. We need to move the entity on. I was going to make a few suggestions as to what we could do, but I think that your dad is going to be our best bet. He will work with us on the other side to move this soldier on. I'll bless the house, we'll light some sage, I'll let the smoke drift around all of the rooms of the house, including the outside, the garden, driveway, and the borders of the property. And your dad will help me guide the entity into the light. He was never a bad man, just a soldier who feels he's caught in some battle with you. He sees you as trespassers, a kind of enemy, and he's trained to fight, Margaret. The family were amazed by what they'd heard, but they instructed the psychic medium to do what he needed to do. Candles were lit, prayers were said, holy water was sprinkled, and the sage was smouldering. Andrew and Margaret were expecting some kind of horror movie type response, bangs, noises or screams. But there was nothing. It's not working, they thought. He's not fighting back, it's too quiet. The psychic medium continued the ritual in every room and outside, just as he said he would. He was holding a Bible in his hands, which were trembling. He looked quite frightened, but Andrew, Margaret, Nellie and Richard just sat and watched. There was a deathly silence. Hold tight, Andrew said. It's going to get crazy in a minute. I can just feel it. Don't get scared. Just sit tight. Let's hold hands. A few minutes later, the psychic entered the lounge. He's gone, he said. Gone? Andrew said, somewhat surprised. How can he be gone? Nothing's happened. He's gone. Your dad was there, Margaret, and he led the entity, the Roman soldier, into the light. Oh, and your dad has left a message for you, Richard. Oh? What's the message then? It's for Richard and Richard only. He doesn't need me to tell Richard because Richard already knows. They all looked at Richard, with a look of confusion on all of their faces. Not another word was said, but what on earth did that mean? Your dad also wants me to tell you that he will always be with you all, watching over you and protecting you. Nothing like this will ever happen again. You can get on with the rest of your lives now. Be happy, enjoy your house, and enjoy each other as a family, he said. And then he packed his things and left. Well, if any of them had any doubts about life after death, spirits, ghosts and the paranormal, those doubts had gone along with that Roman soldier. They later researched further about the land the house was built on. It was indeed built on a Roman settlement, very close to a fort which still exists today. It's just a few hundred yards away from the house. A number of properties have found Roman relics and coins in their gardens, and later, although the family never discussed it with anyone outside of their immediate circle of family and friends, Margaret was visiting her neighbour, dropping off a parcel that had been left with Margaret whilst her neighbour was out. They weren't particularly close, but always neighbourly, just a friendly hello now and then, or a wave from the car, or indeed the garden. Come in, Margaret, she said. Have a seat. Would you like a coffee? Yes, I wouldn't mind, please. She somehow felt she should. They'd been neighbours for years, but this was the first time that she'd really been in their house. Anne, her neighbour, came through with coffee and biscuits and said, by the way, our house is haunted. Margaret was taken aback. Really? She said, not letting on at all about anything that had happened next door. Haunted in what way? Well, when we wake up in the morning, the furniture's been moved, and sometimes the sound system turns itself on at night. We also hear footsteps on the landing, and our shampoo and shower gel bottles are often on the shower floor when we get up in the morning. Crikey, Margaret exclaimed, that sounds terrifying. No, we're not scared by it, Anne replied. We've just learned to live with it. But it's definitely haunted, she said. When did you find out it was haunted then, Anne? Well, it was all okay for years, she said, but we noticed things started to happen. Actually, not too long after you moved next door. You must have brought the spirits with you, she said, laughing. Margaret laughed too, but her chuckle was definitely forced, unlike Anne's. Margaret was inquisitive, but never told her neighbour about their own ghostly goings-on, but she certainly felt relieved to hear it, as she now realises that it wasn't a personal thing. It felt more like the land and not the house. She told the rest of the family, and they were of the same opinion. The Browns actually lived in the house for 19 years before deciding to sell up and downsize. Richard was now grown up and had married with 2 children living in nearby Norwich. Nellie passed away and joined her husband Russell, reunited again. Andrew and Margaret bought a little bungalow in Caister and still live there today. The big detached house had 3 owners in the last 6 years. They were discussing this one day with Richard and his wife. I wonder if the ghost's back, Andrew said, smiling. Richard looked at them both with a serious look on his face. I have a confession to make to you both, he said. Oh, Margaret responded. What's that then, she said, with a smile on her face. Have you done something you shouldn't have? Been a naughty boy? Well, yes, he said. His tone was serious and the smile was quickly wiped off Margaret's face. Go on then, what is it? Well, you know how our last house had some ghostly goings-on in it? Yes, said Andrew and Margaret in a chorus with each other. And you know how that medium chap said the Roman soldier had been invited into the house? Yes, the chorus continued. And you know how Grandad Russell passed on a message from me and said I already knew what the message was? Yes, get on with it, Rich. Well, it was all my fault, he said. How on earth could it have been your fault, Richard? Don't be silly. Well, when you were away in Tenerife that time, I had my cousin and some friends over for a bit of a party, and one of them suggested we do a Ouija board. We set up a glass on a big mirror which laid on the dining table. We made a circle of letters and numbers, the yes and the no, and, well, you know, we asked if there was anyone there. Nothing happened at first, but then it went crazy, spelling, get out, you should not be here. It was really angry and the glass was spinning uncontrollably, and then it fell on the floor by the wine rack. It smashed, all of the letters were drifting across the dining room floor as if they'd been blown by a gust of wind. We tied it up and we all sat scared in the lounge. I know we shouldn't have done it, and the problem was we didn't close the thing down. We'd left the spirit here in the house with us. Calm down, mate, Richard said. I don't believe in all that crap. It was a coincidence. You're not to blame. Even the house next door is haunted. It was nothing to do with you. It was, he said. The message that Grandad left was that he knew what had happened. I shouldn't tamper with such things again, and I never have done, and I never will. Andrew smiled. It doesn't matter now anyway, it's all in the past. That night, when getting into bed, Margaret said to Andrew, Andrew, the house next door wasn't always haunted, and our house wasn't always haunted. If you recall, there were no ghostly goings-on at all, not until we'd got back from Tenerife, just after Rich had held his Ouija board session in the house. Go to sleep, Mags. It's all in the past now. It's all in the past. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed this evening's short story from the dark side. And if you have, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell. Because if you don't,
that scary bloke may just come and find you. Sleep tight.